That's really interesting. And since you brought it up, you're talking about unique academic programs and how they can change a school's risk profile and potentially that school's insurance premiums.
Sure.
You talked about like if a school has like a diving program or an aeronautics program, or even schools that have dormitories, right? That creates a lot of additional risks. One type of school where I'm really starting to see some pretty interesting risk profiles and creating some unique challenges for folks in your roles are virtual schools and how it affects their insurability. I'm seeing a lot more virtual clients come through my legal practice, and I'm working with a lot of insurance brokers who have to, profile the risk of these virtual schools. And I'd love for you to kind of reflect on how those risk profiles can be different. Because what I've come to find is, on one hand, maybe you're getting some breaks on the general liability side of thing because you don't have the physical campus, you don't have the security guards, you don't have students coming onto the campus and things like that. On the other hand, all of that technology is really raising that risk profile. So your cyber policies become a lot more important. Data breaches become a lot more important. Love for you to speak on that.
Yeah, it's a really great question. So, virtual, non-site based, homeschool, there are a lot of words to reflect, I think, the risk you're talking about. One of the big, I couldn't agree more on the cyber. In a virtual world, if you get shut down, your systems get shut down in any way, and you're unable to access the students you're educating because you've answered a viral email that shut down and what we call bricking your systems. Make you incapable of reaching your students. That's a real risk that has to be contemplated. And what kind of training do you go through to mitigate that? And then what steps do you have to get back up and operating quickly so you can? And how would the insurance respond to those circumstances because of the lost income of being unable to access your students? Cyber in that world is clearly a primary consideration. One of the ones I find a lot, it's more risk mitigation strategies because a lot of those virtual schools are developing a specific curriculum around the students who apply. So in the bandwidth of public schools and their districts sort of have a one size fits all curriculum often, and that's what the district will teach. The charter school at least gets to hone that a little bit more, and maybe they're a military school, or maybe they're STEM, or maybe they're arts, and where their focus is and their mission is different and unique, and that has to be considered. Homeschooling, virtual learning, hones it even further. They allow that student to really define what their education path is going to look like and be. And sometimes that includes using third-party vendors to really hone. Maybe it's a music teacher, maybe it's an athletic coach that aren't necessarily employees of the school, but are a resource that they've vetted to make sure that the student gets the experience they're looking for. Now the question is, how does your insurance respond to circumstances related to those third-party vendors? Are they going to cover circumstances those vendors create in their education of your student? Or are you going to require that each of those vendors carry a line of insurance themselves to act as what we call the primary layer in the event they're the cause of some negligence that the school gets brought into? But we at least have a primary layer to use before the school's insurance gets affected. Big issue for those virtual schools who are creating those unique education opportunities.
Well, and oftentimes the insurance company might require the vendors to have that primary
Correct.
liability as a condition of coverage, or at least of coverage with a manageable premium for the school.
Correct. And one of the challenges in that regard is, and it's a challenging topic to discuss, but it has to be put out there, molestation and abuse coverage, or what we call SAM coverage.
Yeah.
The vendors are often asked to carry it. And in this new world we live in, and unfortunately, those sort of claims have risen to the point where carriers are really reticent to write the coverage unless they collect a significant amount of premium. And sometimes when that ask is made of that vendor to carry SAM coverage, it prices them out of the market because that's a big lump for a single piano teacher to carry on behalf of the school requirements. So really thinking through what the ask is and how you're mitigating risk becomes a really important conversation to have with those vendors.